As well as the Swedish punks that we've had with us in the studio tonight, we've also got SHELLEY, who is the lead singer and songwriter of the English group the BUZZCOCKS. I'd like to welcome you to Sweden, and thanks very much for coming along tonight.
Thank you very much. You've enjoyed it.
Good. We were asking the Swedes what it's like to live in Stockholm at the moment, and I wondered if you could tell us a bit about what it's like, or what it was like living in England before the whole punk movement came about in 1976.
Just the same as living anywhere, where nothing's happening.
Yeah.
There's nothing happening. Like, a few people used to meet, but it was usually all the music was like heavy metal or disco, and it was just.
Were there a lot of young people playing music themselves?
Yeah, there were, but the thing is, nobody ever knew about them.
Yeah. So the media was concentrated on the
the
bigger
superstars,
bands.
Yeah. The superstars got all the coverage, and anything else was deemed to be too low.
Yeah. And this was in Manchester you were. Do you know anything about the London scene at that time?
No. I mean, it was, but just thought it was,
everywhere.
Well, they were like all the pub bands.
Do you think that's
like
how punk started, with the pub circuit?
No, it's just that the people on the pub circuit got just as boring as everybody else. So people decided to actually make their own music.
Yeah.
And actually do their own concerts rather than relying on people who own the pubs to book them in.
So do you think it was mainly a musical revolt rather than things to do with the society that the kids were living in?
No, it was just that people thought, well, I'm fed up of just sitting around and having nothing to do.
Yeah.
I think I'll just do it myself. That's what people did. They started forming bands, and the bands got in contact with each other. And then all of a sudden the media found out about it, and the spotlight was on the bands. And one thing led to another. And
yeah. We heard quite a bit about the Sex Pistols when they first came out. There was a lot of stuff in Swedish newspapers, mostly about how they wore Nazi emblems and whatnot. How much were they a sort of image of punk at the beginning?
Well, I mean, they were the most publicised, therefore they became the predominant image.
They apparently had a manager who was quite forward in getting them.
Yes, Malcolm McLaren is in there.
Do you think it was a business arrangement, really? Or do you think that the Pistols actually were into the music?
Well, the Pistols were into the music, but they were also into the fact that you could become incredibly famous and successful by doing nothing at all. Just by being bad, advertising the fact that you are bad is one way of becoming successful.
Yeah.
That was like the whole thing with the punk movement. I mean, the worse you can be, then the more famous you become.
Yeah. Did you hold with that as a member of the BUZZCOCKS?
Well, in the early days, we were bad.
Yeah.
In the early days, the Sex Pistols were bad.
Can you tell us a bit about how the BUZZCOCKS came to be?
It started with me and a friend at college, Howard Devoto. We started writing songs together, and we thought it'd be good to play them. And so we formed a group and played, and that was it. And our first gig was given a really good review in the music papers. And every time we played, they'd send somebody along, and we'd get, even better review. And just one thing led to another. I mean, all it was the thing which made us different to all the other bands which have ever been, and all the bands which ever will be, and all the bands which were there around at the time, that was that we just got publicity. And the moment you have publicity, then it just puts a spotlight on you, and therefore people notice it.
But I think also that the band that's getting the publicity must have a bit of talent as well for them to continue to be popular.
No, not necessarily.
You don't think
I mean,
so?
publicity does a lot of things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's loads of records which get into the charts, which have, well, it's just a personal opinion of mine. I have no musical value whatsoever.
But I think listening to your music, it's quite well thought out, and there's a sort of artistic spirit at work behind it. Would you agree with that? Do you work hard at the music
No,
that you make?
no. It just happens.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen, I don't bother with it. If it happens, you know. I mean, I limit myself, so I only do the stuff which I think is good.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, I don't want to do things which I don't like doing. It's only the things which I really like are the ones which I carry on doing.
I think you've also got a very strong style with your music. It's got a strict form, but a lot of variation within that form. It's fast, short songs with clever text playing on words. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, it's just it's the only style I've got. I mean, I'm hopeless at writing anything other than what I write. I mean, I'm not a musician. I'm more musical than a musician. So I just write things. That's all I can do, you know. And I play to the best of my ability the things by which to the best of my ability I think of.
To go on to another subject now, at the beginning of the punk scene, there was a lot of concerts held by Rock Against Racism, which is a political organization. How closely was the punk music scene linked with political?
Well, it was supposed to be.
Organisation.
Well, I mean, there never has been such. Well, it's my personal opinion. There never has been such thing as a punk movement. It was just that there were bands springing up in 1976, and the media wanted to captivate it all into one catchphrase, and they used punk. And then after a while, it became too diverse. All the groups and the things which are happening were too diverse to be just punk. Therefore, they had to invent new wave.
New wave, yeah.
And then things have gone on further and further, so that bands are said to have gone outside, and so punk's like an abstracted refinement.
Yeah. But I think even so, one can see that in the early days, the music and the look of the people playing the music had a similarity, whereas now they seem to split up a bit.
Only because you didn't. Only because things weren't looked at in the detail which they're getting looked at now. It was just that you just hear about it. I mean, you know, somebody say, there's a punk, you know, a punk, there's a punk, there's a punk. There's no better differentiation. I mean, it's just like, I mean, I could walk down the street today and see everybody and say, oh, look, it's all Swedes, you know. I could just dismiss it like that. Well, that's what a lot of people do with punk.
There was quite a strong reaction
to
to punk at first in England.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Well, sort of. I mean, it was mainly the music papers.
Yeah. And the ordinary daily papers were...
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I mean, it was a new kind of news, wasn't it, for them?
Do you think the media and TV have a lot to blame for bad reputations that groups have?
Well, the only way you can get a bad reputation is by people getting to know about things.
Do you think most people...
Well, I mean, the TV, the radio, and the press, you know, all the media in general, are wholly responsible for any good reputations. Any kind of reputation whatsoever is just the way that the media views a problem.
What about the influence of the big business companies, record business companies? How much influence have they got on what music looks like?
Well, in our case, they haven't. I mean, we're like special case.
I believe you've managed to keep a fairly large amount of control over.
Yeah, well, we got almost complete control.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so we're in a situation where they don't tell us to do anything. Well, they can't. It's in the contract, they can't tell us to do anything. And it's up to us to tell them to do things. So that's good. But, I mean, there's a lot of groups who the first time somebody came along with a contract, which could have all been a piece of paper, you know, piece of blank paper with space of 4 signatures, and lots of bands signed on. And it just faded away into obscurity.
Yeah. Do you think there's been any really good talent discovered in the course of the last few years?
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes I think I'm good talent, but yeah, well, I mean, there's always talent. I mean, if people, I mean, the thing with like the early 70s was that people were concentrating on the things which were meant to have talent, you know, such as the big supergroups, and everything else was dismissed out of hand. I mean, you know, if it's not famous, then you know, it never is going to be. If it's not popular, it never is going to be. So, I mean, all it needed was for people to actually look in other areas to find out something. Well, because there's loads of things which I've never experienced, which could be, you know, a greater pleasure than anything else I've experienced. And I won't know until I actually look. So, I mean, there may be groups now who write material which, you know, I think is really great. Or there may have been groups in the past.
But it seems a bit ironical in a way that when a group is unknown and plays for a small crowd of fans and are good, they get bigger and bigger and more famous, and until that they've got no contact left with the people that helped them on the road, so to speak.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a danger?
No, it's just an inevitability.
What about what have you found in your
Danger.
personal experience about getting further from your fans?
Well, I think the fans tend to get further away from you. Because as far as I'm concerned, anybody who wants to talk to me can talk to me. But people always see you as being something extremely special, and they say, well, I mean, like, sometimes I travel on a bus and they say, whoa, it's Pete Shelley, and the mates say, no, it isn't, it's not. And I say, yeah, it is. No, it isn't. I mean, you wouldn't travel on a bus, would he? And therefore, they don't come up and talk, they just, like, shout, you know, so I could turn round and look at them and nod and wave. I mean, there's no way I can make myself into a star, because there's lots of people who pay lots and lots of money to try and become stars and never do, so there's no way I can do it. I've got no special gift. It's just other people who decide that I'm a star. It's other people who decide that I'm different and remote from them. But if people want to get to know me, they can do, because I'm just basically me.
Well, I'd like to thank you once again very much for coming along tonight and talking about your music and punk rock, or the new wave in general. And I think from what's been said, one can see that a lot of new stuff was discovered with the new wave that was exciting and innovating. But at the same time, it had a few destructive elements within it. And I think quite a tragic example is Sid Vicious, who died on the 5th of February this year. And we're going to show a film now, the last film that was made with him, a couple of weeks before he died, which shows fairly clearly, I think, how he was completely in the hands of big businessmen who were making money out of him.
No, it was also completely in the hands of himself, and there's lots of other people who died the same way that he died, but nobody ever gets to hear about them because, I mean, they weren't the Sex Pistols bass player.
Yes, I agree with that, but I think it's a pity that people are making money out of a person like Sid Vicious.
It's inevitable. If there's money to be made, they'll make money.
Unfortunately, yes.